Hello, today I'm going to talk about a question someone has asked me. His question is that whether he should aspire to become a manager or remain as an expert in his field. He is an experienced candidate, has about 8 years of experience, and he has this dilemma in his mind whether he should become a manager, he should try to become a manager, or aspire to become a manager, or remain as an expert. He is a very technically sound person. He likes hands-on technical work. He is in the field of some technical field, and he loves his work. He loves to learn more and more about the field that he's in, and he doesn't want to manage people. He doesn't want to manage stakeholders. He doesn't want to do admin activities related to people management, and he doesn't want to take the responsibility of delivery and so on. So he's more happy doing what he's doing. He's an expert and he wants to remain as an expert. Question is it risky? Is it a good thinking, or he should change his thinking? Because there is a perception that after certain numbers years of experience, you should aspire to become a manager. Otherwise, you'll be seen as not a successful person. First thing. The second thing is that the company that you are working for may not even want to retain you as an expert, because you probably will be expensive at some point. So you really have to then become a manager, right? So what are the options, right? What should one do, right? There is no single answer to this question, because it depends on a number of things. But I like to share my views on this based on what I have experienced myself, but also what I have seen in other people. I've lived in 3 different countries, worked in 3 different countries, but I've worked for at least 5 different geographies: US, different Asian countries, but different European countries as well. What I've seen is that it depends a bit on where you are in. In Europe, people remain as expert, technical expert, even after working for 10, 15, 20, even 30 years. I've seen people in their 60s working as senior experts in different fields, in IT, but in risk management, quantitative finance, and compliance, and so on. But in Asian countries, I haven't experienced that. In Asian countries, once you are at certain experience level, you are expected to become a team lead or a manager, senior manager, and so on. Otherwise, people saw you probably haven't achieved much in your career, and you are not supposed to work as a senior expert beyond certain experience level. In the US, you have seen a bit of both. Some people prefer becoming manager at some point. That's obviously an aspiration, and especially for experienced people, that is always an aspiration. But many people prefer working just as experts. So you have both. You have a bit of a both. But in Europe, that's totally different. Now, what should one do? But things are changing. Even in Europe, things are changing a bit. Now, gone are those days where you work in one single company your entire life. That used to be the case 20, 30, 40 years back. But things have changed now, right? You move on, you experience one thing, and then you sort of want to experience something else. You move between companies. You move not just companies, but you sometimes even geography, right? Like I have done myself, right? So the reason why people in the past would remain in their own niche and over specialize, and wouldn't experiment anything else, was simply because they would work in the same company and they had the security and so on. But all that is gone, right? So things have changed. So one has to change your view about things as well, right? So to me, I think it's entirely depends on what you're good at, what you want to do in the future, how many years you want to be in the industry, and so on, right? It's not a very good idea to just make up your mind that you will never become a manager. I think that's not a very good idea. I think a manager everybody should be willing to become a manager. Whether you become one, you want to, or you really aspire to become one, that's different. But you should have the skills to become a manager. You should have all the managerial skills, like to be able to handle stakeholders, to be able to manage people. I think that's super important, regardless of whether you are a manager or not, because in the modern times, if you do not have soft skills, you are not able to communicate properly, you are not able to handle pressure, you are not able to manage people, you are not able to take ownership. These are soft skills, right? Any job you do in the modern times, these skills are super important. These skills are also very important for managerial jobs, right? So you just can't avoid, so it's good to prepare yourself to become a manager. Whether you become one, that's different thing, right? But if you really want to remain as a senior expert, make sure that you are really, really good at it, and make sure that you are somebody who is really at top of your game, right? The young folks cannot replace you in some areas, such as in software engineering, for example. I've heard from my friends who are in software engineering. I used to be a software engineer myself at some point. The younger generation is usually a bit better in terms of skills compared to the older generation. And that's been true for a long time, right? The young folks, and a lot of technical work, I would say, but certainly software engineering is more of a bastion for the young folks. It's more like chess, where the young people do better, right? And they can even work harder and explore things and so on, right? And you are competing with those young folks for the technical or the specialist jobs, right? And that's not always easy. But this is definitely okay for really, really good people. I know people, highly experienced people, who simply cannot be replaced. The technical folks, they're super good in what they're doing, right? And if you have that young mind to upskill yourself, to upgrade yourself in the technical areas, then there's nothing wrong remaining or wanting to remain as a technical person all your career, or at least first 20-25 years of your career. Maybe after that you become a manager or an advisor, an architect, lead, whatever. But first, for the first 20 years, you don't want to do, that's still fine. But if you're not in that category, then I would highly advise to also explore options, becoming a lead, a project manager, or a manager as such, because those skills will complement your technical skills, and a bit of both will help you survive in the industry. And in the field of finance, it's super important. Those skills are very important, because those managerial skills are also extremely important, even for team members, people who are not managers. Okay. Many people move to consulting after working in banks and financial service organizations. There, your managerial skills are super important, because even at senior expert level, you have to lead teams there in consulting. So skills will be extremely important. Now, some people are scared of being a manager because they think that your job security is not that great if you become a manager. That is actually somewhat true, but not necessarily true all the times. Many managers do survive longer compared to the experts. But that's also a bit of a debate, because sometimes managers are let go if things don't go well, and that's the reason why many people are scared of it. So if you are someone like that, I think yes, you should be a bit careful about that. But I think nothing wrong becoming a manager in an area where you are really comfortable, right? Some people can handle people, other people, actually. That's a problem. But whether we like it or not, that's part of the corporate life. In fact, if I have to be honest, when I joined the corporate world long back, I was very young actually. I was in my I was barely 20-year-old. I wasn't really good at having relationship with other employees, other colleagues. I struggled with that. I never struggled with the work as such, but I did struggle with just being in the team and managing sometimes not so nice people. But that I developed that skill over time. So some people a bit scared about having to deal with not so nice people, having to give critical feedback to your employees, having to take important decisions which could have consequences for your team, but on the organization. But these things you learn over time, and I think after having worked for 8 to 10 years, I think most people would have learned these skills. And then and people who think that it's risky, what is not risky in the times that we live in? I mean, we could lose jobs anytime, right? Given the circumstances, the disruptions that's happening, and the nature of the jobs that we have in the modern times, job security is just a myth. I mean, it is a bit better in some areas. For example, in the field of finance, it's a bit better compared to what I've seen. In tech, for example, it's not, jobs are not that secure. But nonetheless, job security is much less compared to what it used to be during our parents' time, in 80s and 90s. So things have changed. So unless we adapt to new things, it's difficult for us to survive. So long answer to a short question. I personally believe that one should develop skills to become a manager, regardless of whether you want to remain as a manager for a long time or not. And everybody should work as a manager for a couple of years at least in your career, right? It's good to also work as managers because you'll appreciate how difficult it is to become a manager and to be liked by other people in your team. Because oftentimes we criticize managers, we criticize our own managers or team leads because of a number of reasons, right? And then we have to put ourselves in their shoe to know as to how difficult it is to be a manager, but also work as a manager and making sure that everybody's happy. It's not an easy thing, and I think we'll appreciate that and have a better relationship with our own manager if we do that for a couple of years. And some, like, if you really want to remain as an expert, like you really want to do technical things all your life, right? In the field of finance, that's where I specialize in, and I talk about that in here. It's quite possible actually, especially because senior folks are also given a lot of importance in the field of finance. But in the field of software engineering, for example, that's a bit problem. I think even in the field of finance, if you work as a quant, for example, I mean, you can remain as senior expert maybe 15-20 years, but beyond that, you maybe become a burden for the team. Not everyone, but some people. But you also need to have that mentality of remaining young inside, even though your age or experience may be growing. And you should be willing to also not expect higher salary after a point, because if you don't grow beyond a point, you will not make more money. And in Europe, people are fine with that. But I've seen in other places, you really want to grow not just in your career but also financially. But that's not possible if you really want to stay in a technical career path. Now, whether managers should be technically sound or not, that's something I'm going to talk in another video. That itself is an interesting topic. But yeah, for now, I'll stop here. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.